श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ द्वितीयोऽध्यायः। संजय उवाच तं तथा कृपयाविष्टमश्रुपूर्णाकुलेक्षणम् विषीदन्तमिदं वाक्यमुवाच मधुसूदनः। Sanjay said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion and very sorrowful, his eyes brimming with tears, Madhusudana, Shri Krishna spoke the following words. Shri Bhagavanuvacha kutestvakashmalamidam vishame samupasthitam anaryajushtamaswargyamakirtikaram Arjuna. The Supreme Person, Bhagwan, said, O my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the progressive values of life. They do not lead to higher planets, but to infamy. The Supreme Person said, O my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the progressive values of life. They do not lead to higher planets, but to infamy. Klaibyam asmagamah partha naitatvayupapadyate kshudram hridaya daurbalyam tyaktvottishta parantapa. O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. Arjuna uvacha katham bhishmamaham sankhye dronancha madhusudana ishubhihi pratiyotsyami pujarhavari. Arjuna said, O killer of Madhu, Shri Krishna, how can I counter-attack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship? Guru nahatva hi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum bhaikshamapi haloke hatvartha kamanstu guru nihaiva Bhunjiya bhogan rudhira pradigdhan. It is better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though they are avaricious, they are nonetheless superiors. If they are killed, our spoils will be tainted with blood. Na chaitad vidmah kataranno gariyo yadva jayema yadiva no jayeyuhu yaneva hatva na jijivishamas teva sthitah pramukhe dhartarashtrah. Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. The sons of Dhritarashtra, whom if we killed, we should not care to live, are now standing before us on this battlefield. Karparnya doshopahata swabhavaha prichhami tvam dharma sammudha chetah Yachreyah syanishchitam bruhitanme Shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure. because of weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Nahi prapashyami mamapanudhyat yacchokamuccoshanamindriyanam avapya bhuma vasapatnamriddham rajyam suranamapi chadhipatyam. I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. I'll not be able to destroy it, even if I win an unrivaled kingdom on the earth with sovereignty like that of the demigods in heaven. Sanjaya uvacha evamuktva hrishikesham gudakeshah parantapa na yotsya iti govindam uktva tushnim babhuvaha. Sanjay said, having spoken thus, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent. Tamuvacha hrishikeshaha prahasanniva bharata senayorubhayor madhye vishidantamidam vachaha. O descendant of Bharata, at that time Krishna, smiling in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Ashochanan-vashochastvam pragyavadascha bhashase gatasu nagatasunshcha nanushocanti panditah. The blessed Lord said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. Natvevaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadhipah na chaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayamatah param. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhirastatra namuhyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhadah agamapayino nityastanstitikshasva bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Yam hinavyathayantye te purusham purusharshabha Samadukha-sukham dhiram somritattvaya kalpate. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress, and is steady in both, is certainly eligible for liberation. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satah, ubhayorapi drishtontas tvanayos tatvadarshibhihi. Those who are seers of the truth have conducted that of the non-existent there is no endurance, and of the existent there is no cessation. These seers have concluded by studying the nature of both. Avinashitu tadvidhi yena sarvamidam tatam vinashamavyayasya na kaschid kartumarhati. Know that which pervades the entire body is indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable soul. Antavanta ime deha nityasyuktah sharirinah anashino prameyasya tasmad yudhyasva bharata. Only the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction. Therefore fight, O descendant of Bharat. Ya enam veti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhau tau na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate. He who thinks that the living entity is the slayer or that he is slain does not understand. One who is in knowledge knows that the self slays not, nor is slain. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah. Ajo nityah shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. For the soul there is never birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Veda vinashinam nityam ya enamajamavyayam katham sapurushah partha kanghatayati hantikam. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, unborn, eternal, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Vasansi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grihnati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnanyanyani sanyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, similarly the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyapo, na shoshayati marutaha. The soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor can he be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. अच्छेद्योऽयमदाह्योऽयमक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्यः सर्वगतः स्थाणुरचलोऽयं सनातनः. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, all-pervading, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. Avyaktoyamachintyoyamavikaryoyamuchyate tasmadevam viditvainam nanushochitumarhasi. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, immutable, and unchangeable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. Atha chainam nityajatam nityam va manyase mritam tathapi tvam mahabaho naivam shochitumarhasi. If, however, you think that the soul is perpetually born and always dies, still you have no reason to lament. O mighty armed, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmadapariharyerthe natvam shochitumarhasi. For one who has taken his birth, death is certain, and for one who is dead, birth is certain. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyaktanidhananyeva tatra ka paridevana. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when they are annihilated. So, what need is there for lamentation? Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidena mascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyaha. Ascharyavatchainamanyah shrunoti shrutvaapyenam vedana chaiva kaschit. Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing. And some hear of him as amazing. While others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitumarhasi. O descendant of Bharat, he who dwells in the body is eternal and can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any creature. Swadharmamapi chavekshya navikampitu dharmyadhyuddhat shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. Considering your specific duty as a kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. Yadrichaya chopapannam swargadwaramapavritam sukhinah kshatriyah partha labhante yuddhamidrisham. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought. opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. अथ चेत्त्वमिमं धर्म्यं सङ्ग्रामं न करिष्यसि ततः स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं च हित्वा पापमवाप्स्यसि. If, however, you do not fight this religious war, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. Akirtim chapi bhutani kathayeshanti te vyayam sambhavitasya chakirtir maranadatirichyate. People will always speak of your infamy, and for one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. भयाद्रणादुपरतं मन्स्यन्ते त्वां महारथाः येषां च त्वं बहुमतो भूत्वा यास्यसि लाघवम्. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you a coward. Avachya vadanshcha bahun vadishyanti tavahitah nindantastava samarthyam tato dukkataram nukim. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? हतो वा प्राप्स्यसि स्वर्गं जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसि महीम् तस्मादुत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up and fight with determination. Sukha dukhe same kritva labha labhau jaya jayau tato yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papamavapsyasi. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by doing so you shall never incur sin. Esha te bhihita sankhye buddhir yoge tvamam shranu buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. Thus far I have declared to you the analytical knowledge of Sankhya philosophy. Now listen to the knowledge of yoga, whereby one works without fruitive result. O son of Pritha, when you act by such intelligence, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. Neha bhikrama nashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Vyavasayatmika buddhirikeha kuru nandana bahushakha hyanantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadantya vipaschitaha vedavadarataः partha nanyadastiti vadinaha कामात्मानः स्वर्गपरा जन्म कर्म फलप्रदां क्रियाविशेषबहुलां भोगैश्वर्यगतिं प्रति. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya pahrita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhihi samadhau na vidhiyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination of devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Traigurnya vishaya veda nistraigurnyo bhavarjuna nirdvandvo nitya sattvastho niryoga kshema atmavan. The Vedas mainly deal with the subject of the three modes of material nature. Rise above these modes, O Arjuna. Be transcendental to all of them. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Yavanartha udapane sarvatah samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanataha. All purposes that are served by the small pond can at once be served by the great reservoirs of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. Karmarni vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur ma te sangostva karmani. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Be steadfast in yoga, O Arjuna. Perform your duty and abandon all attachment to success or failure. Such evenness of mind is called yoga. Durena hyavaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya बुद्धौ शरणमन्विच्छ कृपणाः फलहेतवः. O Dhananjaya, rid yourself of all fruitive activities by devotional service and surrender fully to that consciousness. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Buddhiyukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrute tasmad yogaya yujyasva yogah karmasu kaushalam. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad actions, even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, O Arjuna, which is the art of all work. Karmajam buddhi yuktahi phalam tyaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmuktah padam gacchantya-namayam. The wise engaged in devotional service take refuge in the Lord and free themselves from the cycle of birth and death by renouncing the fruits of action in the material world. In this way they can attain that state beyond all miseries. Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vyatitarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. Shruti vipratipanna te yada sthasyati nischala samadhavachala buddhistada yogamavapsyasi. When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. Arjuna uvacha sthita pragyasya ka bhasha samadhisthasya keshava sthitadhih kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. Arjuna said, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? And what is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? Shri Bhagavan uvacha prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanugatan atmanevatmana tushtaha sthita pragyastadochyate. The blessed Lord said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of sense desire which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. Dukheshvanudvignamanah sukheshu vigatasprihaha vitaragabhayakrodhaha sthitadhir muniruchyate. One who is not disturbed in spite of the threefold miseries, who is not elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. Yah sarvatranabhisnehastat prapya shubhashubham nabhinandati nadveshti tasya pragya pratishtita. He who is without attachment, who does not rejoice when he obtains good, nor lament when he obtains evil, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. Yada sangharate chayam kurmongani vasarvashaha indriyani indriyarthebhyas tasya pragya pratishtita. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws his limbs within the shell, is to be understood as truly situated in knowledge. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. The embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipashchataha indriyane pramathene harante prasabham manaha. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasyendriyani tasya pragya pratishtita. One who restrains his senses and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. Dhyayato vishayan punsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho bhijayate. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. Krodhat bhavati sammohaha sammohat smriti vibhramaha smriti bhranshat buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati. From anger, delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Ragadvesha vimuktaistu vishayanindriyaischaran atmavasyairvidheyatma prasadamadigatchati. One who can control his senses by practicing the regulated principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord and thus become free from all attachment and aversion. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhihi paryavatishthate. For one who is so situated in the divine consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such a happy state, one's intelligence soon becomes steady. Nasti buddhirayuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayata shantirashantasya kutah sukham. One who is not in transcendental consciousness can have neither a controlled mind nor steady intelligence, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? Indriyanam hi charatam yanmanonu vidhiyate tadasya harate pragyam vayurnavamivam bhase. As a boat on the water is swept away by a strong wind, even one of the senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Tasmadyasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashaha indriyani indriyarthebhyas tasya pragya pratisthita. Therefore, O mighty aunt, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. Ya nisha sarvabhutanam tasyam jagarti sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato mune. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. Apuryamana pratishtham samudramapah pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sa shantimapnoti na kamakami. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Vihaya kamanyah sarvan pumanscharati nisprihaha nirmamo nirahankaraha sashantimadhigacchati. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. Esha brahmi sthitih partha nainam prapya vimuhyate sthitva syamanta kalepi brahma nirvana mricchate. That is the way of this spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. Being so situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. Om Tat Saditi Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri-Krishna-Arjuna Samvade Sankhya Yoga Nama Dvitiyodhyayaha. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the second chapter of the Shrimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of its contents.